for the greater good. I am proud that as an institution, we continue to come together to hear the stories, learn the history, and celebrate the triumphs of all populations. Throughout history, and even in some instances still, LGBTQ plus people around the world have faced, and again sometimes continue to face, violence and inequality, and sometimes torture, and even execution because of who they love, how they look, or who they are. Sexual orientation and gender identity are integral aspects of what it means to be human and should never lead to discrimination or abuse. And to that end, we come in solidarity to honor and celebrate Pride Month. Pride Month and/or Pride celebrations are more than parades and parties. They serve as an opportunity to profess and reaffirm our collective beliefs of equity and access for all peoples. These annual celebrations or recognitions allow us to take time to reflect and educate ourselves on the movements and actions taken by a demographic that have contributed to the acceptance of the civil rights we all have the privilege of sharing. We look forward to continuing to support the LGBTQ plus members of our community, recognizing the strengths and talents they bring, and raising awareness of the challenges they face so that we may eliminate the barriers of so many that continue to help us shape who we are as a collective and to live up to our core values of equity and inclusiveness. In conclusion, thank you all for joining us for our annual RSC Pride celebration. And at this time, I'd like to turn the program over to our Vice President of Technology and Infrastructure, Mr. David O'Shea. David.
Thank you, President Smith. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David O'Shea, and I am your Vice President of Technology and Infrastructure here at Rio Salado College. And I'd like to welcome and thank each of you for joining us at Rio Salado's first ever Pride Month celebration. We are excited to kick off our first Pride Month event with former Tempe Mayor and Rio Salado advocate, Neil Giuliano. I would also like to thank the student and employee participants that are with us today. Thank you, excuse me. And now I have a quick PowerPoint presentation. I'm running through computers here, so stand by. And I wanted to talk briefly about being an ally for the LGBTQIA community and what that means to me and to everyone else in the community. So this is what I think is the importance of being an ally in the community. Being an ally means to join another person or group in order to give them support. An important note is that everyone has the capacity to be an ally for someone else. Even if you identify as part of the LGBT community, you can and should be an ally for others in your community. For example, gay, cisgender people can be and should be allies to bisexual and transgender folks, and transgender folks are allies to asexual or pansexual folks. And I think that Dr. Floyd Harden put it very well when he said that being an ally is simply people helping people, which I thought had a lot of value when he said that. So part of being an ally is understanding your privilege. So this is one of the first steps in becoming an ally, because you have to understand and acknowledge your privilege. And so if you're going to fight for the rights of others, you need to understand what special rights that you have that others may not have. So as a white cisgendered male, I have a lot of privilege in our society. It's, you know, I don't get stopped by the police. I don't get asked questions. I don't get weird looks when I kiss my wife in a restaurant. None of that stuff happens to me. And so I acknowledge that privilege, and I use that privilege to help other people that do not have those same privileges. And the idea of privilege doesn't mean that you're rich or that you've had an easy life, that everything's been handed to you, or that you had to struggle, you know, not struggle and not work hard. It simply means that there are a lot of things in your life that you haven't had to experience or haven't had to think about. And that's just because of who you are and kind of where you were born. And that crosses not only the LGBTQIA+ spectrum, but also the race spectrum, our friends in the Asian Pacific Islanders, there's a lot of privilege that exists in the white cisgender world that other people don't have the opportunity to enjoy. And so I try to use that as a way to assist people in other areas that aren't provided with those privileges. So a good way to kind of help become an ally is to educate yourself, right? So if you have an LGBTQ person in your life who is open to sharing their story and answering their questions, you might want to talk to them and learn from them. You can also go to Google. Google is a great resource for learning more about this community and the people that are part of it. And there's also other types of media. Typically traditional media, I think, is a little bit different. It doesn't have the representation that you get in the digital community. And so if you really want to know and understand this community and the great people that are inside of it, definitely diversify your sources for news. And you'll find plenty of blogs and articles that are written by folks in the community. And that's a great place to start to educate yourself to understand what you can do to support other communities and be an ally for people that may not have the privilege that you have. Another thing you can do as an ally is to use inclusive language and to help ensure that inclusive language is used in the places that you work or the places that you might frequent. And it's this one for me was real tough. I was raised saying yes, ma'am, yes, sir. And I realized about 5 or 10 years ago that just doesn't work anymore. And so I've kind of changed the way I gender people automatically. And this seems to have really worked out well for me. Just don't assume that people that you are working with or that you know are a certain gender. And so referring to people as colleagues and members of the community versus saying that they're girls or guys or that kind of thing really helps you be inclusive, and it helps you to be intentional, right? And so what you do is you want to tell people that you promote a positive environment where everyone is included and accepted. And I've used those words in meetings, and I use them all the time when we talk about hiring people, promoting people, recruiting people. Make sure that promote the idea that this is somewhere where everyone is included and everyone is accepted. And the final piece of that is to avoid binary language. And so rather than referring to someone's wife or husband, it's real simple just to refer to them as their partner or their spouse. I actually call mine my partner in crime, so it's easier that way. And then something I learned recently was the use of the word folks. So instead of saying ladies and gentlemen, which was a thing that I did, in fact, I learned that at a Sequin meeting at the Ritz-Carlton 5 years ago, is that they refer to their staff as ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen. And so I think they might want to take a look at that that older language, because it doesn't fly, I think, anymore with the people that frequent their hotels, either as an employee or as a guest. And then a big one is to be visible. I think that a lot of times you put the burden on the members of the community to be visible, right? And I think if you visibly advocate for inclusion, it definitely helps with the people in the community to become more comfortable. It's, you know, when we work on our campus and we go to the gym, that kind of thing, you want a nice, comfortable environment where everybody feels included, everybody feels welcome. And so there are a lot of ways to take that burden off of members of the community, and you yourself make sure that inclusiveness is visible, right? So you have representations in your area that they're visible, it's inclusive. I've got a sticker on my car with the equal sign that lets people know that, hey, I support this community. So it's a silent way to put your support out there and help push that message of inclusion. And then the big one is to speak up, right? I think the most important part of being an ally is speaking up when you see something or you hear something. And there are easy ways to slide into conversation and just say, you know, in a very non-threatening way, we should talk about the way you referred to those people, or we should talk about maybe the reference you made to those people, or that kind of situation. So speaking up is a big one. I can barely keep my mouth shut, so it's a big thing. And so I think going forward, if you want to become an ally, which I definitely recommend that you do to help the people in this community and our friends and families, is to let people know, right? Come out as an ally, educate yourself on these issues, and learn how to speak up against hate. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I have a whole bunch of friends in this community that I could just ask them, hey, should I say this? Or even, during one of our planning sessions, I said, hey, I don't know if I'm comfortable saying these things as a, cisgendered white male. And they were like, yeah, same. They need to be said. People need to understand that people with my position and my job can speak out and help people in this group. And then realizing that it's not just saying you're an ally, but it's a verb, right? Demands action. How are you helping people not become discriminated against, that kind of thing? And how can you help them make the world more inclusive? And just a quick picture. This is from our family years. I want to thank you for our time. This is my wife and I at, I think this was Christmas of 2019 before the pandemic hit. And one of the things that we do as allies is we support the arts in this community. So a lot of LGBTQIA+ artists, one of the things we love to do is drag shows. Drag is an amazing form of art for the community to express themselves. And so I just wanted to share that with everybody. Thank you very much. And of course, I completely lost my script now. So any questions or comments about that? Back on video. Thank you very much. No? All right. Well, at this time, I'd like to go ahead and have you turn your attention to our employee reflection segment. And these are some of our employees that work at Rio Salado and their thoughts and comments. So it's possible we're having some video issues.
I'm getting there. Hang on. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about that, everybody.
That's okay. So a lot of comments about in the chat section about drag and drag shows. This city has an amazing drag scene, and I can tell you right now, if you are a cisgendered person, you will feel completely comfortable at any drag show. We go to bars that are primarily, LGBTQI+. It's fantastic. It's a welcoming group. The shows are awesome. You get all the entertainment art you can think of for your money. So the next time you see one, or advertise that kind of stuff, or a drag brunch, do it. Spend the $10 or $15 and go see an amazing type of art and expression from the community.
Hi, I'm Tracy. I'm a student success coach at Rio Salado downtown. I'm an ally for the LGBT community because I feel like love is love. Love is hard to come by. Love is hard to keep. And if you can find someone to love and to be open with and to be honest with, that's the most important thing. It doesn't matter who you love. It just matters that we all love each other. And that's why I'm an LGBT ally.
I'm an ally because of my Uncle Patrick. This is a picture of the two of us ice skating together. It's the late 80s, and he's a gay man with HIV. He went on to live for one more year after this picture was taken before dying of AIDS. He was the best uncle. He was kind, funny, generous, a pretty decent ice skater. If you were alive in the 80s, you might remember the news just portrayed gay men who had AIDS or HIV as just total pariahs. I knew that this was wrong, and the disconnect between what the media was saying and what my uncle had shown me about love led me on the path towards allyship. I think about Uncle Pat all the time, and I know that he lives on in me and in my own daughter, who I'm raising to know that love is love. Happy Pride, Rio.
My name is Kristen Franco, and I work in the Employee Engagement and Resource Center. People wonder why we need Pride Month. My uncle was one of many people who faced hardships for being gay. Growing up, his brother would try to toughen him up, and they even chained him to a tree once and beat him up. Growing up, My life was totally different. I would get these great letters in the mail from my grandma, super sweet. But then my uncle at the same time was getting these religious anti-gay material pamphlets from her. And I couldn't believe it was the same person. Growing up, I was told he had a roommate and his partner and him were never really accepted by his siblings. I'm the youngest of the cousin generation, and we're thankful that it doesn't have to be like that with us. We love him, we support him. He's our uncle. Who he loves doesn't matter to us. What matters is that he's loved and appreciated, and everyone deserves that.
Hi, this is Keely from the Employee Engagement and Resource Center, and I'm bisexual. Growing up, I was obsessed with the show Degrassi, The Next Generation, as one is when they're a teenager in the mid-2000s. I saw in the episode where Marco, the openly gay character, came out as gay. And for the rest of his storyline, I was so envious of how he was able to live just out and open and not be afraid of what people thought. And I was really impacted when my dad walked in on that episode and said, you know, I don't understand why people like that feel they need to tell everybody. So from that moment on, I lived with that secret from my family for the next decade. And that's why pride's important to me. I don't think anyone should have to hide any big aspect of themselves. I think that we should all be celebrated and we should all learn to get along.
Fantastic. Thank you to everyone for sharing your stories. And it's powerful stuff, and it's a lot of value, and it's nice to see other people out there advocating for the community. Excuse me. Now I'm happy to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Neil Giuliano, former mayor of Tempe and Tempe's first LGBTQA+ mayor. Mr. Giuliano's years of public service span decades and across state lines. He currently serves as president and CEO of the Greater Phoenix Leadership. His prior leadership includes top posts in the San Francisco AIDS Foundation and the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. Giuliano was the youngest person ever elected mayor of Tempe, a post he held from 1994 to 2004, following 4 years of service on town council. During his tenure, Tempe flourished, and Tempe Town Lake and downtown Tempe's growth today began with his forward thinking for urban development. Thank you, Mr. Giuliano, for being with us today.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, President Smith and Floyd and all the others that were a part of this, creating this celebration for Rio. It's really tremendous that you're doing it. I'm pleased to be with you. Sorry we can't be together in person for the second year in a row now. Pride events are pretty much all virtual, but I'm hopeful that next year we will be able to gather in person somewhere around the country, and certainly here in our own region here in the Phoenix area. So it's a lot of fun. I always enjoy doing these events. It is more fun to travel to them, but this is the way the world is right now. So we do them all virtually for this year, another year. Let me start by saying it's a tremendous honor to have the opportunity to talk about pride and talk about the LGBTQ community. But I am just one member of a very vast rainbow. The diversity of the LGBTQ AI plus community is wide as the Grand Canyon. And so there's never one voice representing the LGBTQ community. There's multiple voices, and that's how we like it, and that's how it should be. I was asked several times during my 10 years as mayor of Tempe, 8 of which I was openly out as the mayor of Tempe with regard to my sexual orientation as well. Well, what does it mean to have pride? And what does it mean to stand up for the rights of a marginalized group of people? And for me, it means being authentic. It means finally getting to a place where we can be comfortable in our own skin, not hide, not fear, not be ashamed of who we are, the way we are, however we want to describe it for ourselves. It's simply a matter of acceptance and being comfortable with yourself. There was one time when I was mayor of Tempe that I got a call at about 10:30 at night, and the guy first on the phone said, "Are you Mayor Giuliano?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, we voted for you in every election." And I said, "Well, that's nice. What can I help you with?" And he said, "Well, we've never met you. We read in the newspaper that you're gay, and our son tonight told us that he was gay. and we reacted horribly. And we said things we shouldn't have said, and we're not homophobic, but we know we didn't act right. And now he's left the house and we really don't know what we should do. We just don't know anyone who's gay to talk to about this. And we chatted for a couple of minutes. They told me about their son, and then I said, well, does he have his phone? This was in the beginning days of cell phones. I said, does he have a cell phone? And they said, yes, we got him a cell phone. I said, why don't you call him? He probably won't answer. He's upset, but tell him that you love him and tell him that he can come home, that he's always welcome to come home, and leave that message for him. There were many times as the first directly elected openly gay mayor in the United States, actually from little old Tempe, that situations like that helped me realize that we all have an obligation bigger than ourselves. Some of us, it's going to be raising children, taking care of family. Some of us, it's going to be community work in other ways, not necessarily family-based, but we all have some sense of obligation beyond ourselves. And realizing that and coming to understand what our purpose is an important part of your experience. If you're a student at Rio, it's also, I would contend, an important part of our journey as professionals if you are a staff member or a leader within the college as well. Thinking about purpose and thinking about how you will be able to make a difference in the quite difficult world that we live in right now. Politically, in many other ways, people who are just different, whether they be in my LGBTQAI+ community, whether they be in any other community that is a marginalized community, things are tough right now. There is great pushback from those in society who just are not comfortable with the greater acceptance and the greater interweaving of the multiculturalism within our country that, in my view, makes us a tremendous place and a tremendous country. We're fortunate in Tempe. We've had protections for our employees and now for others in our community for a good number of years, but that's not the case everywhere in the country. So we have pride celebrations to recognize the past and acknowledge how it all started. And you can Google Stonewall and you can learn about all the various uprisings and other marches and activities that took place that have brought us to this day. It has been a long struggle. When I first came out as the mayor in 1996, about 35% of Americans accepted LGBTQ people, accepted that we were not immoral and disordered or sick. Fortunately, those numbers have shifted. And now there's only 35% or so who still believe that. And over 70% believe in full equality, believe in the acceptance of people showing up who they are and what they bring to our daily lives with all the people that we interact with. So we've gone from a 70% disapproval in society to a plus 70% approval in society in a not too long period of time, if you think about it. How does that happen? That happens because of people like you. It happens because of visibility, of people choosing to live openly and live with authenticity. It happens when our allies stand with us. So grateful to all the allies who are involved with Rio and other places in our society, standing with the LGBT community and other marginalized communities. We would not have had the progress that we have today. We would not have it at all without authenticity of people coming out and our allies standing with us. So I'm grateful for all of you who have taken either of those steps with regard to your own journey with the LGBTQAI+ community. So let me leave you and then take a moment if there are any questions with, for me, a little poem that sort of sums up my involvement in all of this. When I finally looked in the mirror one day and said, this isn't a phase, this is the way it is. I have to learn to live with myself. I have to learn to love myself. I have to accept myself. and hopefully someday be able to help others do the same. It goes like this. Before, becoming involved was something that would happen later, after I knew more about myself. But they said, get involved, do something for someone else. You'll get a good feeling inside. And when I asked why, time and again, there was no answer. Then I wasn't sure it was going to be worth all the risk, the hurt, the failure. It was easier to say no, to sit back and watch others doing all that work. But slowly I began to wonder about myself. Caring was something I needed to do more of. Was I caring about no one but me? So I tried, and I risked, and I was hurt, and I failed. At times my soul screamed, leave me alone. I don't have time to care. But I never had the courage to say that out loud. Now I can't stop. I'm committed. Someone somewhere is depending on me. And as I think back, I realize I laugh a little bit and I cry. They never told me I would be a bigger person. So today, I want you all to know you are the bigger people. You are the people that are having impact on the lives around you, whether you realize it or not. You're the bigger people standing up for not just the LGBTQAI plus community, but all marginalized communities, to bring us stronger together as one community. When they never told me I would be a bigger person, I wondered. I wish someone had told me. So I'm telling you today, you're the bigger people. Thank you for doing this event. Thank you for acknowledging the role of equality and inclusion and acceptance in a very pluralistic society that has multiple dimensions and multiculturalism growing and growing and growing. Be strong with your voice to push back on those that would have us go back in the closet, to push back against those who would not continue and try to take away the freedoms that we have today, although we are still not fully free. The state of Arizona does not have protections for LGBTQAI plus people in housing or public accommodation. So we need to move forward in our own state, and we need to be advocates and stronger voices. So I thank you all for including me today in your Pride program. I'm happy to be here, and I'm very proud of you for having this celebration. So Dave, thank you. I'll throw it back to you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me be the first to thank Mr. Giuliano for sharing your time with us. You are a beacon of inspiration to all of us. And I'd like to, again, thank you all for the years of support that you have committed with Rio Salado. My name is Angela Clark. I work in the Fiscal Services Department, and I will be your moderator today. We're going to have a great panel of employees here at Rio and students here at Rio. And I'm very excited to come here as an ally, as someone who am living it every day with a personal relationship with a family member that, as other speakers have spoken earlier, that it is very personal to me to make sure I'm here to help educate myself, protect, and share in my family member's journey. So before we go into our panelists, I would like to take a few minutes to pass it over to Dr. Harding. Floyd is on the next speaker, and he just wants to say a few words before I get started with our panelists.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. Mayor Giuliano, thank you so much for that poignant and timely speech. Thank you so much for inspiring us to continue to do the work, continuing to roll our sleeves up and make Tempe, make Rio, make the world just a better place, a more inclusive place. As we get ready to do our panel, I'd like to really set the tone and the context. Mayor Giuliano and Vice President O'Shea really spoke to the ideas of shame, spoke to the ideas of privilege, spoke to the ideas of acceptance. And so as we are engaging in the panel and really musing over their offerings from earlier today in the program, I'd really like our panelists to kind of think of one of the most important aspects of Pride Month is really the ability to show up as our whole selves. And so before I give it over to Angela, I'd like for us to kind of think about from an identity space, sharing our identity with our colleagues, with our peers, with our Rio family is so incredibly important. So the first question that I'd like to ask is, what does pride mean to you in terms of fully expressing your identity? And to start us off, I'd like to kind of throw it over to Miss Janine Bassett, if she would.
Hello there. I have to, can you see me? Because I'm not sure how to spotlight myself, but it won't allow me to spotlight myself, Angela. All right, well, anyway, I'll just chat. So there we go. So I, like Floyd said, my name is Janine, and I work with the faculty here at Rio, and I support them in all kinds of ways, and I identify as a lesbian. And you know, when I think about pride, I was just sitting here thinking while I was listening to everybody talking. My father, at age 66, came out. He'd been in a 42-year relationship with a woman, and at 66, he decided to live authentically. And I actually asked him a couple weeks ago, when did he realize he was gay, and kind of what went into kind of the decisions he was making. And he said back when he was growing up, it just wasn't okay, and he didn't feel safe. And so he did what was expected of a good Catholic boy and married a woman. And so, when I think about when I see young people coming out today at very young ages, and I just get so excited because I know as a 58-year-old woman that I didn't have a lot of role models. I just had to kind of do it, and I didn't have people that I could look to. So I think pride to me is people being able to come out and be authentic and be themselves. And I think that's the most powerful thing we can do, both as allies and as part of the community, is let people know and use our voice, because it's very hard for family members and friends. If I say to a family member or friend, I'm a lesbian, and they love me or care about me, then they've got to struggle with that a little bit, because I'm not that other person. I'm who they love and care about. So that's a little bit about kind of what I think about.
Okay, so we're going to go on with the remaining panelists. Next, I would like for us to speak with our next employee here at Rio Salado, Mr. Kevin Castillo. If he would like to open up as the same question that Floyd offered to him. What does Pride Month mean to you, and how would you like to identify yourself?
For sure. Thank you, Angela. Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Castillo. I work for the Admissions and Records Office here. I identify, my pronouns are he and him, and I identify as gay. Growing up, I grew up both in a Latino and Christian household. So growing up gay was a bit of an issue for me, at least identity-wise. But for me, Pride is is really a celebration of not being ashamed of who you are, just because this month exists so that we can celebrate the pride of all LGBT people. And that's not something that's normal. I don't know how to probably say this, but like straight people don't have to have a month dedicated to them overcoming struggles and issues. So for us to have a month like this, it shows a lot, because we did have to come through much diversity and much hardship in this country specifically, and there's still a lot to go through. So this is just something to make aware, but know that it's not just a single month. It's more of a lifetime kind of thing to always keep fighting for our rights and for equality for everyone.
Thank you for sharing with us, Kevin, and also Janine for your speech prior, and you're sharing with us prior than Kevin. And lastly, I would like to offer our next employee here at Rio, Rachel Clark, her view to answer the same question that Dr. Floyd has put out there, Dr. Harney has put out there. If you would like to go ahead and answer that before we get to our student panel.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Rachel Clark, and I work in the Division of Student Affairs. I identify as a bisexual cis woman. My pronouns are she and hers. Just a little bit about me. I've been with my partner, Tatiana, for over 20 years, and we have 2 young daughters together. I remember taking them to their first Pride. That was fun. Having to explain a lot of things that their young eyes had never seen before made me think, okay, certain elements of Pride Parade, we will not engage until you're a little bit older. But anyway, Pride Month for me is really about 3 things. It's about honoring all that's come before. That's the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly. It's about celebrating today, where we're at, celebrating our families and our friends and our allies and the entire community. It's also about celebrating at some amazing parties. We know how to party. And then the third thing is looking to the future and the work that we have to continue. As people have said, we're not there fully, right? So doing this work for all communities, not just the LGBTQIA+, because of intersectionality, there's too many communities in this work, not too many, but there's all of us have work to do so that we have a safe and loved and equal environment for all.
Thank you for sharing your views, Rachel. We really appreciate that. And that is our employee portion of the panelists. Now, the exciting part, now we're going to get into our student panel. I'm so excited. First, we have Chelsea Hockerson here on call with us, and she is on the view screen. Please welcome Chelsea as one of our Rio Salado's students.
Hey there. I identify as a straight female. My pronouns are she and her. And I feel like maybe my Libra tendencies, I'm very much a believer in equality and equal rights. And as I was a big sister to a little boy, and at 5 years old, I knew that he was different. And as he got older, he got really close to telling me he was gay several times, and he didn't. And at about 12 years old, he came to me. I'd been taking him to church. My dad and my stepmom were not very religious, and I just felt like I'd gone through a divorce, and I felt like I needed that. And so I was taking him to church with me. And at one point, he looked at me and he said, "Sometimes I want to kill myself because people at school don't like me." And I said, "What do you mean they don't like you?" And he said, "They don't like who I am." And what I started to find out is they were calling him names. It was apparent that he was probably gay, maybe bisexual, they weren't sure, but they were telling him to kill himself. And I remember having this conversation with my dad, and my dad was so fiercely defending that my brother was not gay that he alienated my brother. He made him feel like there was something wrong with it. And so when he was almost 18, he finally did come out, and he came out on Facebook, which was interesting because we all see it, all our family members, and we're calling each other. We're like, "Did you see this?" And, but that's how he decided to come out. And I made sure that my children never had to feel that. I would have conversations with them about gay people and bisexual people. And I tried to educate myself as much as I could because I understood that I didn't have all the answers, but I wanted to, in my mind, as a parent, being tolerant was not enough. I wanted my kids to love people and accept people and include people. And because of that, 6 months ago, my daughter told me she was gay, and she's 9. And that was such a beautiful thing for me because she didn't feel like she had to hide that. She didn't feel like she had to be afraid of my reaction. And she started to cry. And I said, I love you. And I'm always going to love you for exactly who you are. Why are you crying? And she said, because now it's real. And I said, I get that. And so I asked her a lot of questions. I kind of wanted to see where she was, if she was transgendered, if she was gay, if she was bisexual. And I told her as she started to discover who she was, if that changed, that was okay too. And she was very concerned about my husband. She said, what if daddy doesn't like it? I said, daddy's not going to care. And so I talked to my husband in front of her, and he said, I just expect you to comb your hair every day and brush your teeth. I don't care who you love. But the beautiful thing is her and I can have these discussions. And I told her, I said, not everyone's going to accept you. Not everyone is going to be okay with you. And I said, but that's okay, because you have us at home and we love you no matter who you are. And I did have a conversation with my brother, and he said, don't make her label anything. Let her be who she is. And when she figures that all out, she'll tell you. And so I'm very proud to be part of this panel. I'm very proud to support all of you. I'm proud of how well my children have handled my daughter coming out. And I just want to do more. So thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Chelsea. That was very beautiful and very appreciative. The chat is going crazy. Everyone is feeling your pain. Everyone is, translating with you as a parent. Everyone is, giving you cheers. And, as a mother, I would like to just give you that heartwarming feeling that we are here with you. And thank you for sharing your story. We have one more student that I'm very excited to share their story with, and that is, I keep messing up her name, and I apologize in advance, Samia. Samisi. Why is that so hard for me? It's such a beautiful name, Samisi. Welcome to Rio's panel and our first Pride Month panelists. How are you feeling? And would you like to answer the question and identify yourself as what?
Yes, my name is Amisi, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a proud transgender male to female. Growing up, my father was a minister, and so going to church and hearing a Protestant, and hearing the sermons and how they were portraying people of the LGBT, how they were evil. And I knew how I felt inside. And I knew that what I felt inside was okay. There was nothing wrong with the way I felt inside. And so in 2000, with the whole Y2K, I decided to leave my family home and move out on my own, cut all ties, because I needed to find myself. So I came out as gay, but it wasn't enough. I still felt like there was something missing. And I went to my first Pride here in Phoenix. It was over by the library, the park by the library. And I saw these beautiful women, tall, beautiful women. And I was like, that's what's missing. That's me. I saw myself in them. And so I started my my journey, and I'm very happy. And part of my journey is coming to Rio. And as a transgender person, I never hide the fact that I'm trans. I don't try to pass. And anybody who asks, I tell them what I am, because I feel that trying to hide my identity would cause more harm. Would me trying to in a way, it would be me trying to fool them. And so I've always lived openly. And so I know I'm very happy that Rio has been very accepting of me. And I don't know, I recommend to my fellow trans sisters, that if they are looking to go back to school, to go to Rio, because they're very, very accepting. And so, yeah, thank you so much. But Pride to me represents freedom, because that's where I found my freedom, was at Pride.
That's what everyone is looking for. That is a huge statement. Freedom is huge. It's an ultimate statement of what makes us be humans. And I think that is wonderful. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And as an employee here at Rio, I'm proud to say you are one of our students. And thank you again. So what we want to do now is invite former Mayor Neal, if he would like to maybe answer that question along with our employees and our students, as we have our, a few student panelists. Would you like to answer that question also? Which you mentioned a lot of it, but just in case someone may have missed your great speech earlier.
Well, thank you. Well, thanks to all the folks who just shared their stories. It's really compelling and moving, and happy Pride to all of you. Pride is an evolution, and Pride is a journey, and Pride is an acknowledgement that you deserve the best for yourself, and you need to make decisions that will be the best for you, and the people that are in your life can support you and help you. At the end of the day, though, you're going to make the choices that are best for you, because you know yourself best. So that's what, for me, Pride has always been an evolution and a journey and an acknowledgement of that. Pride for me also right now in the world we live in today, Pride is also it's a statement about what we have yet to achieve, and the difficulties that we still have as a community. And while public sentiment is now on our side for equality, that doesn't always represent, that does not always come through in the politics, right? So we all play a role in continuing to shape and mold and improve the culture we live in with regard to our communities, whether an ally or a member of the community. And I say that because your visibility matters. Your visibility matters the most, actually. People will not discriminate or actively work against someone that they actually know. We know this from the research. So your visibility matters. And I like to say that your visibility doesn't make a bit of difference. It makes all the difference. Your visibility makes all the difference as an ally, as a member of the community. And that evolution, that Pride today is very different than Pride what it was 20 years ago, and very different than it was 50 years ago. Now, 52 years ago, when Stonewall first took place in the summer of 1969. So continue to evolve, continue to stretch, continue to grow, and continue to welcome all our allies.
Thank you for that, former mayor. I wanted to kind of touch back base on what you just talked about. How do we start a conversation with folks that mean a lot to us, like our friends, our family members, our co-workers? I know Chelsea, and I want to start this question off with Chelsea regarding how she's able to have her reaction with her co-workers as being a parent now to a daughter who identifies in this community. How are your job treating you and your family and being acceptable to your daughter's transition in the community?
I actually work for a retirement community. I've been here for over 19 years. They're very familiar with my daughter. And so I think what the mayor said about you won't react the same way to somebody you know. They love my daughter. And so whoever she is, they've already accepted and loved her. And these are elderly people who this wasn't something that was accepted. This wasn't something that was recognized or understood. And because of that, because of their relationship with her, it definitely has changed their reaction. They love her, they love me, and we have included part of our orientation revolves around educating people about the LGBTQ plus community and making sure that they understand and accept everyone. We've had men that have worked here that are transitioning to female, and they have painted nails and they have makeup, and we've gotten to the point that nobody even blinks an eye. And I think that we need more of that. We're such a small community, but it has progressed to that, which is nice.
I agree. Representation is very important. Let's go and ask Rachel, what is your viewpoint and how do you start a conversation with coworkers or your social friends, maybe social media, or your family members that maybe still are on the fence of understanding your community? How do you start those conversations?
I don't know if I've been in one of late. I am pretty direct and blunt. And so just kind of comes out like, this is how it is. This is who I am, living out loud kind of thing. I think it's important, like Chelsea was saying, to take an educational approach to understand, as Samisi was saying, where people are coming from, what they were raised with, their beliefs, and honoring that and trying to find equal ground. I would say as a parent, where I have to like come out most is at the park or any place I'm with my kids, and it's just me, or it's me and Tatiana's off in a distance, or if we're standing together, it's like, oh, so which one's the mother? We both are. That's always a fun conversation, and the looks on people's faces, and then they want to know how you did that, you know, technically how you did that. So that's always interesting. And at the doctor's office, you have to answer a lot of personal questions. Floyd's laughing. Maybe you've been through this. And it's interesting, the questions that you get and the responses. But I find, you know, at the doctor's office, honest and direct, you're not really building much of a relationship there. But with people at the park, your friends' parents, people you're going to continue to see and hang out with, and their friends are going to come over here and spend the night, and my kids are going to go over there and spend the night. It's just, you know, showing them who our family is, what we're about, that we're good people doing good things, and we welcome their child. And yeah, there might be a little bit of education about who we are and how we do things, and as long as the other parents are okay with that, we do it.
Thank you for sharing. I would like to ask Samisi the same question as, how do you start a conversation out with co-workers, friends? Social media is huge now. That's where we, due to the pandemic, we had to really get our conversations through social media because we wasn't able to go to jobs, we wasn't able to go shopping, we wasn't able to go to events. How do you start your conversations with letting people know you know this is your community, Pride Month is important to you, every day is important to you, and whatever changes you want to see happen, what is some of the things that you have encountered? Give me probably the last year or so, especially with COVID.
Well, prior to COVID, I've accepted, or well, I guess I understood that I may be the first real trans person that someone has met, and so it's important to make that first good impression. And sometimes people have had their point of view, or you know that trans people are like from the Jerry Springer era, that that there are only these types of trans people. And so by meeting me, it's like it totally flips it on, it flips it, because I'm very real, I'm very open. If you ask a question, I'll answer it. I allow people to enter into my space, because I find I have found that it's actually changed their point of view, and also improve their understanding.
Angela, you're on mute, Angela. You're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you for sharing. Again, as time, goes by and more people are learning and educating themselves, that they are being more acceptable to who we are and what our community are. We are coming close to time, and I wish this could have been a longer session because we are really doing awesome, and I love the panelists with the diversity of employees and our Rio family and former mayor. This is a very good panel, but we are getting close. I just want to kind of wrap everything up. I want to thank everyone for coming, and we want to make sure that if you keeping Rio a good safe space and awareness is what we are promoting in the DIB committee. Is there any other questions in the chat that we may have didn't get to? Floyd, is there anything that you have seen in the chat that maybe we can address really quickly, even though we're coming up on time? And we want to really thank our President Kate, because I see she's on here too, before we wrap things up. Any pressing questions?
Hi, Rebecca. I am still in the other meeting in my phone.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'll make you host and then.
Oh, okay, we got somebody unmuted. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close us out. I want to thank all of our guest speakers today, our panelists, our students. I want to thank our former mayor, Neil Giuliano, for being our excellent speaker in this Pride Month. We want to thank President Kate Smith for giving us this opportunity to have Pride Month and this panel and this open forum here. And this is just the beginning, folks. This is the first one. So this was a trial. This is a new thing for us, but we are willing to improve every year. So please, anytime that we have anything, and we love, especially myself personally, I love seeing interaction with students. So thank you for stepping up to the plate, I'm sorry, and coming on and talking to our community, because folks want to hear people's real stories. And it's nothing like a good Zoom video to get that started, as former mayor has mentioned. It's been Zoom for 2 years, but we're coming back. So we want to thank everyone for coming. And again, this is being recorded. So if we missed anything, I want to thank our panelists. I want to thank our special guests. And I want to thank David O'Shea for sponsoring our program today. Everyone have a pleasant day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Angela.
You're welcome. Thank you.